So yes, I could have called this 5 tips for crushing any marathon, but with Chicago coming up, we thought that a lot of this would be forefront for everybody's mind. And for all of you that are doing these amazing races, no matter where it is, we have some recommendations for anybody, no matter what race you have coming up, because I think that the more you guys understand about how your body moves and what you need to do to look at prevention of an injury or reducing the risk of an injury, I should say, as well as preparing your body to be able to do it, to perform better, these tips are universal for that. And the most important thing that I want you guys to understand with this is that these are doable. I mean, this is not, I'm not telling you guys anything that nobody can do. It is learning how to manage your time a little bit and learning to avoid temptation when you feel like you should only be running, to understand that there's so much more to running than running. So in my 5 tops for crushing any marathon, it does not say to run more, because I don't think that running more necessarily makes you a better runner. It can help with your mental side of believing that you can do things, but running more mileage doesn't necessarily make your body more ready to run. So that's what I really want everyone to take away from this, is that there are other things you can do that are just as effective as running to prepare you for a marathon. So my name is Denise Smith. I am a physical therapist. I've been practicing for about 24 years now. I graduated from Marquette University, and I have been a running technique specialist for 15. I started Smith Physical Therapy and Running Academy 10 years ago, where our name is now Smith Physical Therapy Plus, because I have so many amazing coworkers that do things besides working with runners. But our whole goal is education on movement, because we feel that the more people understand how to move and what it takes to move, the longer they can do it. And that's our goal, is improving longevity of activities that make everyone happy and help us live a healthy lifestyle. So my goal today is to teach you the why and the how, not just telling you how to do something, because the more you guys understand why, the science behind things, the reasoning behind things, you can do this on your own. You don't necessarily need me to tell you what to do. I'm here as your guide. You guys are the Luke Skywalker of this story. I'm just your Yoda. I want you guys to feel empowered to look at things like exercises on YouTube or a Peloton video and understand that, oh, this makes sense. I understand why we're doing this. And I can, even though these might be Denise's recommendations, I can modify it and do these things that my trainer or my friend or my favorite influencer is telling me. I now understand why to incorporate that. So that's the big goal today, and some tips on how to do it too. Like I said, I will be sending out a PDF of the stuff I'm recommending tonight, as well as a link to this presentation. So you can go back and watch this. Feel free to share it with everybody, whatever you need to do. So my 5 tips are based on 25 years of working with runners. Like I said, the last 15 have really been around working with the technique side of running, but all of this is true. And my number 1 tip, like this is why this is number 1, is strength training. And I don't feel like runners tend to do this enough. And you guys can put in the chat box if you already are strength training, but I think that strength training is more important than anything else you can do. And the reason for that is that we need to learn how to tolerate the load. When we're running at marathon pace, our body has to absorb 2 to 3 times our body weight. So if our bones and our muscles are not strong enough to carry our body mass, that's when injuries happen. And things like bone strength, especially for perimenopausal and postmenopausal women, is imperative to injury prevention. So the stronger you are, muscle-wise, bone-wise, tendon and ligament loading-wise, the less likely you are to get injured. Injuries can still happen, right? Like bad things can happen, but the ability to build a body armor around you comes from strength training. And so that is why strength training is so imperative. And I feel like the role of Betty just mentioned that she's worked with our coworker Abby, which is awesome. And I'm so glad you started prioritizing it after an injury, because it's a good learning lesson to not get injured by working on building that body armor or building that strength training. So I don't want people to be intimidated by lifting weights. I'm not saying you have to go to the gym and throw around 500 pounds, but doing walking lunges or squats with 5 pounds in either hand is very, very powerful and a very good technique to work on your strength. So again, if you follow influencers, you do Peloton or you do anything, understanding that strength training should be your number one priority. Yes, you have to get your mileage in. I understand that. But let's say you have a long run scheduled that's a 16-mile run, but you also want to get strength training done. If you have to measure your time because you guys work, you have families, you need to recover, you need to sleep, those kind of things take priority too. So if you're looking at your day and you're like, all right, listen, I could give up 2 miles. Maybe I'll only run 14, and that will give me 18 to 20 minutes to do some strength training. That's enough. Even if you can give me 20 minutes, 3 times a week, 2 times a week, whatever you can give to that. It doesn't have to be hour-long sessions. If you can do that, great. If that works with your training regimen, great. But if all you can give is 20 minutes, 2 to 3 times a week, that is enough. And so the exercise routine that I'm going to show you is designed that way so that you can get it done in a quick time. So these are again, I'm going to send you guys a PDF with variations on these things, but here are my top 5. If you're like, I don't have time to do anything else, and this is all you can do these 5 exercises, but make variations on them. So there's thousands of ways to do, maybe not thousands, hundreds of ways to do squats. Squats act as a loader of your quads. So your quads are the muscles in front of your body, in front of your thigh, and their job is to help decelerate you when you land and keep you balanced when you make initial contact during running. So squats mimic that movement of landing and slowly lowering your body down. So loading up with squats, doing weighted squats with weights on your shoulders, weights at your side, just air squats, single leg squats, any of that, split squats, all of those things are very, very good options. And you don't always need a gym. You don't need a gym for these. If you're at a gym and you have, you're in a Smith bar or Smith rack, whatever they have at your gym is fine. But using weights with squats is great. But it could be 2 soup cans. It could be 2 half gallons of milk, which is about 4 pounds in each hand. So you can modify this if you don't have it. Another one is push-ups. So there's lots of ways to do push-ups. And even if you're not good at push-ups, you can start on your knees or you can start on a wall. And that's just as powerful as being able to bust out regular push-ups. I do feel like everybody should be able to do 5 push-ups. Some of the research coming out for women for longevity, the recommendation is that you can do 11. So can you do 11 push-ups? I don't know, maybe challenge yourself and work towards it. Even if you have to do 5 without your knees and then the other 6 on your knees. No, that's not a problem, but keep pushing yourself. And now you may ask why push-ups are important for runners. Well, if you think about one of the main muscles that's trained during push-ups is your lat. Your lat muscle, your latissimus dorsi, are the ones that are in the back. They're the main connectors of your upper body to your lower body. So if you start slouching and getting really, really tired when you're running and bending forward, you have now taken your lats out, meaning that now your upper body can't help you move forward. So being able to have good core strength and stability comes from having good posture, and that comes from having good lat strength. And so that's why push-ups are a very big part of lat strength as well as chest strength, because that is where stability comes from. The next one is pull-ups or lat pull downs. So a pull-up, my goal before I turn 50, I'm 48. My goal before I turn 50 is to be able to do 4 pull-ups. I'm trying so hard, but I can't do them yet. So instead I do lat pull downs. And so what a lat pull down is, I'm either sitting or standing and I've got a bar over my head and I'm pulling it down towards my chest. It's the same thing to train those lats to get that shoulder activation, because that then can help my lower body move as well. And so that connection between the upper body and the lower body, your arms are moving, but if you're bent forward and slouched forward, you're not strong through your core, it does you no good, and it actually makes you use more energy. So the more upright your posture is in terms of stability of your spine through this activation of your front and back muscles, the easier this will be from an energy conservation standpoint. My personal favorite are side planks. I know everybody hates planks, but they are probably the single most useful exercise that targets almost every part of your body. And side planks have been shown as the #1 exercise for runners, because what happens is when you're on your side, yes, your core has to be working, but your top leg and your bottom hip have to work together. I should say your top glute and your bottom hip have to work together to keep your pelvis level. And that directly translates to when we're running, our opposite sides have to keep our pelvis level. So there's a muscle called your glute medius and a muscle called your quadratus lumborum on the opposite side. Those two have to work together to keep me from dropping on one side. Again, from a this energy conservation, I don't want you like hip dropping to one side. And you'll see some runners who do that, you know, especially as you're running your marathon. One of the tips I sometimes give other runners is watch how other people are moving. You can start seeing how the body works as a system. So your arms can just be nice and relaxed at your side. Don't worry about like keeping your hands straight or just nice and relaxed. Just think about loose fingertips is what I always say is don't try to grip anything, just be relaxed. So side planks work that shoulder girdle, they work your core, they work your pelvis. You'll see in the exercises I'm going to send you guys through email that there's some variations where I can have you lift your top leg. You can put a band and do clamshells when you're on your side. So lots of creative ways to train in side planks that directly translate to pelvic stability and energy conservation when we're running. And the last one is a single leg deadlift, or some people will call it an RDL. The reason that this is great is because we're always on one leg as runners. We are never on both legs. If we are, we're not really walking, or we're not running, we're walking. And that's okay too if you end up walking a part of the marathon. But if your goal is to be able to be stable on one leg, working on your balance is something that a lot of runners forget to do. So you'll see in the exercises I send you that there's some stuff on like a Bosu ball or something uneven like a couch cushion. That training of your balance is important. Now, some of you are doing some trail runs. That is all uneven surface. So some races like New York or Chicago, it's all pavement all the way. But those trail runs are unstable. Or if you even think about when you first start a race and everybody's going off and it's getting really tight, or you have to start moving around everyone, there's a lot of agility that goes from there. And that agility comes from good balance and stability. So working on single leg exercises. I'll give you some different options with single leg deadlifts, but the goal is to work on single leg balance. The other things that RDLs or single leg deadlifts do is to work your hamstring. Now, the hamstring is my favorite muscle in running because it does the most work. And what its job is to bring, and you'll see this when we get to the technique slide, but its job is to pull your foot up off the ground. And it has to do that over and over and over again. So strengthening that hamstring is vital to it being able to tolerate the load and the volume of what you're asking it to do. So yes, I love the single leg side of this, but I also love the hamstring activation that has to happen. So, and again, if you guys have any questions, just start putting them in that chat box for me. Mobility. So let's talk about the difference between mobility and flexibility. Tip 2 is mobility. Tip 3 is flexibility. I think that, all right, good. Mike Smith says 4 of the 5 completed, no equipment at home to do the pull downs. So another option, Michael, is if you have a resistance band that you can tie overhead for the lat pull downs, you know, like if you have a strap, and work on doing lat pull downs just with a strap even. So, and if after today you guys have questions on how to modify things because of your equipment that you have, I'll just have you email me and we can talk offline about other options. So, so mobility versus flexibility. So mobility, I want you to think about your joint. So let's talk about your hip joint. Your hip joint is a three-dimensional joint. So it goes forward and backwards, side to side, and it rotates. And so I'm not sure how many of you runners work on your rotational movements, but that is important to keep that joint healthy. So yes, we will sometimes do things like soldier kicks when we're trying to warm up or leg swings, but do you work on that rotational movement? Because the hip has to do that in our everyday life. So getting stiff through our hip joint can be detrimental to our running. I'm not sure about you guys, but about 50%, maybe 25% of my day when I'm treating my patients is I'm sitting. The rest of it I get to stand. And I'm lucky because of that. There are many people who have to sit the entire day. So the problem is when you sit, all that load is going through your joints, and we need to keep them moving. We always joke about the motion is lotion saying that us PTs like to say, but it's true. Mobility is imperative to keeping our joints healthy. So I do recommend doing mobility work prior to your workout. So right before you're lifting, before you're running. And it doesn't have to be long. The routine I'm going to send you guys can be done in about 2 to 5 minutes. So my mobility routine when I go for a run is usually in the bathroom, so I don't wake my husband up. But before I've laced up my shoes, while I'm brushing my teeth, I'm doing some of this mobility work. And it's to try to get, the goal is range of motion. So trying to get a little bit deeper and a little deeper with each rep. That's how you're preparing your body. So trying to achieve range of motion before you go and load those joints. So some options for that are a deep squat. Now, again, these can be modified. If you can't get into some of these positions that you're going to see in the sheet that I give you, no problem. I can either teach you how to modify it, or you can look through and be like, okay, so she wants me to get into a squat position as deep as I can. I can only go halfway, but I can feel that stretch in the joint. That's great. That's all I want. All I want is that you can start getting, you can feel the tension on the joint. Yes, you might feel some stretching in your muscles, and that's fine too, but the goal is range of motion at the joints. So with the deep squat, trying to get inside the deep medial part of the hip. And the anterior hip means the front of your hip. So there's like that runner's lunge. You'll see on the exercises I again send you that there's a lot of moving up. So I'll have you go bring your hips up into a position and then down, and then up and down. And each rep, you're trying to get deeper and down further. The medial hip is the same one, but you're standing almost side lunging. So once you guys see the exercises that I send out, if you have questions on them, but if any of you do yoga, yoga is a version of mobility. So yes, there are times you sit and hold the position in a stretch, but there's other times you're just moving in and out of it. So especially like with the vinyasa, where you're going up into a downward dog, and then you come down into cobra, and then maybe you transition into warrior one. That movement, that sequence of movements is mobility work. If you sit and hold it, that turns into flexibility. But we're talking about mobility. Crab rotation is where you're sitting on your butt with your hands behind you, and you're just rotating one hip in then the other. So to get that rotational movement is what we want. And then 90-90 mobility. So some people will call this like the mermaid, or hip hinges or hip switches, where you're trying to get that rotational movement. The picture I'm going to send you guys will also have where they're bending forward and bending backwards to get quads stretched a little bit too. So combining mobility and flexibility in that 90-90. Flexibility. So this is, I want everyone to understand why flexibility is different than mobility. So mobility was a focus on the joints and could be done before your workout. Flexibility is for recovery of your muscles. So letting your muscles, flexibility to me doesn't always seem like the best word. I wish somehow over the years, flexibility has come to mean muscles, but I wish it was elasticity. I wish we could learn how to make our muscles more elastic versus flexing. It's not just flexing, it's elasticity of movement. So this is to help your muscles recover. They've worked really hard for you, so let them get some love and let them stretch out. And the secret to this is it can be done anytime before bed. So if you run and you get up at 5 a.m., you go run for an hour, and then maybe you get a little strengthening in, but then you got to get the kids off to school. You got to get your butt to work. After work, you got your kids' sporting events. You got to go home, make dinner, help the kids with the homework, do some work yourself, and all of a sudden it's almost time for bed. This is a really great way to wind down and get ready for bed. Or you've got your glass of wine or your tea. You can sit and stretch, talk to your spouse, or your girlfriend's on the phone, but be stretching while you're doing it. So it does not have to be done immediately after your workout. Just anytime before bed is what I always say. And again, I do think it's a good way to prepare for bed, to lower the energy that you've had to have all day to get through it, but to let your body just relax, slow your breathing down. The deep breathing will help you get more range of motion as well too. So giving yourself that time before you go to bed and not feeling pressured to do it right after your run is a great way to help your body recover. And again, when I send you the exercises, you'll see which ones are my favorite. And the reason I like these ones is because they kind of target everything. The crossover back stretch is what it is you're basically like flipping one leg over the other and rotating through your spine. I don't think we take care of our spine enough. Yes, we're forward at our desk all day, but that rotational movement that our spine has to do during running is minimal. And so we sometimes forget about the role of that spine. But the rest of our life, there's rotational stuff. You reach behind you to give your kid their water bottle. You have to reach up and over and to put your dishes away. So there's a lot of rotational work that our spine has to do throughout the day that we don't realize. You have to reach across to grab something on the other side of your desk. So making sure you're incorporating that rotational stretching and movement into your spine is important for health of just being able to function. On the exercises you're going to see, this one's called an ITB stretch, the IT band. But to dispel any misconceptions about this, the IT band, or that tight band on the outside of your leg, cannot be stretched. Can't be massaged. It can't be rolled out. It does not have a blood supply. So it's considered an aponeurosis, which is just a different type of tissue in our body that doesn't have a blood supply. So don't bother stretching it. Don't bother rolling it out. Don't bother massaging it. It's just going to hurt. So don't waste your time. But it's called that stretch because it's to stretch that connection between your quad and your hamstring where that attaches right in that area. So it's a lateral leg stretch. So it's for the outside of your leg. And it involves a rotational movement. So making sure that the hip and the muscles of the buttock and hamstrings and quads are learning how to be at different angles. The butterfly stretch everyone remembers from like middle school, where you like put your feet together in front of you. You can be sitting and try to push your knees down. But we've actually found better results when people are laying back and doing this one. This is one of my favorite ones to do before I go to bed. So I'm already in bed and I'm laying flat. I put my feet together, but I let my knees hang out to the side. And the reason why this is good is, first of all, it's a very relaxing position. But you can work on your breathing. If any of you know what 360-degree breathing is, you can be doing some of that deep breathing or meditative breathing if that helps before you fall asleep, especially for us perimenopausal women who need to bring down our cortisol levels. It works really well. But doing that deep breathing and just letting our knees fall to the side, gravity does a lot of the work then to pull those knees. Sometimes my husband thinks he's funny and like tries to push my knee down on one side. But I'm at least happy that it's like, okay, at least trying to further my stretching. And then I challenge him to do it and he can't do it. So that type of opening up of the front of your hips and the inside of your hips is really great for recovery. And then the last one is the 90-90 stretch. So we talked about the 90-90 mobility, where you're putting your legs in these 90-90 positions of a mermaid and you're moving. This one you're going to sit and hold. And you're going to bring one hand over and rotate to the other side. And you're going to feel that stretch all through your lats, your quadratus on the side, all that stuff on the side, your buttock, your hip. You might even feel how tight your hips are because you can't get your hips flat down. So if you have the ability to even sit in this 90-90 position when you're working, sometimes if you work from home, you can sit on the floor with your computer on a coffee table in front of you and sit on this. So sit in this position. It's a great way to get some stretching and some mobility work. Michael, how are you doing with the flexibility and the mobility? Can you do 4 or 5 of those to like your strengthening? All right, and then moving on to my next favorite topic. One of the things that I think is imperative is running technique. Now, I obviously like this and I'm very biased because I'm a running technique specialist, but I think that most of us aren't aware of how we move. And so awareness is a really important part of running. I think I'm a really great golfer. I'm not, but in my head, sometimes I think I look really good. And then my husband will videotape me and I'm totally off. I can see where I'm not, but shifting my body weight the right way, that my shoulder is coming up on one side. So sometimes what I feel and what is actually happening are 2 different things. And so using video is a really good way to help you learn how to move better in space or learn how to get a better awareness of where you are in space. So I don't know if you can see the picture on the far left. This is one of my favorite high school athletes. And he was telling me that he feels like his running is great. But once we filmed him, we saw that he was really using his body weight, going forward too much. He wasn't learning how to control it in space, especially when he wanted to go faster during some of his cross country meets or track meets. So we had to work on technique. So after some technique drills, we were able to get him much more efficient through his core, using his hips the right way to help keep him stable. We also, with running technique training, we use body markers. So we'll use lines and circles and angles to help people aware of what they're doing. Now, just because I geek out on this stuff doesn't mean everybody else will. And so I want you guys to feel empowered that you can work on your running technique without even having to work with a running technique specialist. It's always helpful to work with someone that's certified as a running technique specialist because we can help you get to the next level. But if you're like, I don't have time for that, I don't think I need that, I want to help you learn how to do it yourself. So the first thing I would recommend is just video yourself. Have a spouse or a loved one film you at the end of your run, or set your phone up at the end of your run and just run by the camera, just from the side. In the clinic here, we do a front and back analysis, but you don't need to do that. You can start with just videotaping and see what you're doing. Are you landing with your foot way out in front of you? Are your feet really wide spread apart? Are you bending at the waist? So all of these are little things that you can do for yourself to just look and see how you're moving through space. If you have questions and you want to, yes, Betty, I saw your question. I will be sending you guys pictures of all of the 90-90 or all of the exercises I'm talking about. So you'll see the 90-90 and the stuff that I send. So with the video analysis, just look at what you're doing and look at how, compared to what you think you're doing, does it look like that? And if you want to do a deeper dive into running technique, that's what running technique specialists are here for. But if you're like, I just want to kind of see what I'm doing, then it's a great way to just get an awareness of what you're doing. And Charlotte just asked, is heel striking as bad as people say? So I'm just going to go off on a little soapbox here, Charlotte, for you. So heel striking is such a small portion of the running cycle. It's only happens at initial contact and then it's over. So I don't really care what part of your foot that you land on. What's more important to me is where that foot is landing in relationship to the rest of your body weight. So if your foot is landing super far ahead of you, that's a lot of impact loading through your ankle, through your knee, through your hip, through your back. So if you want a heel strike, but it's landing a little more underneath your body weight where it's more cushioned, that's fine. I don't really care what part of your foot hits the ground. I care more about where that foot is landing in relationship to all of your body weight. Our center of mass is in our abdomen, and that's because all of our organs are there. That's the heaviest part of us. So if you're landing with your foot well ahead of that mass, your front leg has to counterbalance that with your back leg. So ideally, we want you to land underneath, as close to underneath you as possible, so that's cushioned. So your joints are relaxed versus locked out when you land out ahead of you. So that's why we do video analysis, because if you're like, I don't think I'm a heel striker, again, I don't really care. But if you look, you're like, well, I'm a midfoot striker, but I'm still landing way ahead of my body weight. That is more of a red flag to me than what part of your foot is touching the ground. So ways you can work on helping yourself with improving your running technique. And this is where you can use your metrics that you have on your watch or your phone. So there's some key numbers that we watch that's objective data for us as running technique specialists. And one of those metrics is your cadence. So if you open up your app, your Strava or your Apple Watch app, you can look at what your cadence is. Ideally, your cadence should be at about 180 steps per minute. And what that means is that in 1 minute, your feet are coming on and off the ground 180 times, or 90 on the right and 90 on the left. That might seem very fast to a lot of people, but I'm guessing, I can't see you guys right now, but if I told you all to stand up and run in place, most of you would be close to 180 when you're running in place. And that's because it's easy. Our body has a natural energy system that happens between the muscle and the tendon that creates this energy source. So that cadence of coming on and off your feet. Michael asked if it would be based on size. Not necessarily. A bigger person can run at 180 steps per minute, and somebody that is short or super tiny could also run at 180 steps per minute. So that's why it's something that requires training, is to be able to get your cadence up higher. The average person runs at about 165 steps per minute, which we have found isn't high enough to maximize on this muscle tendon elasticity that's created between that muscle and that tendon. So that's why you're going to have to do some training to get it. Again, if you guys stand up and run in place, you'll see that all of you tend to choose a faster cadence because it's easier, it's lighter. If I tell you to hop up and down like a rabbit or a bunny, you're going to probably choose to hop fast instead of hopping slow and load. You know, where you have to like jump up and then just sit and load. Your tendency would be to jump faster because it's easier. So it's just something to think about by looking at your cadence. Other metrics that you can look at are stride length, ground contact time, vertical oscillation. So stride length is how far your foot is landing. So from right foot back to right foot. So right, left, right. That's your stride. A step length is from right to left. So we want your stride length to be shorter than longer is the preference. Cadence, we want that to be higher. Vertical oscillation is how much up and down movement you're doing. And ideally, if you are going up and down, that means you're not moving forward. So working on your cadence and getting your feet on and off the ground tends to reduce your risk of going too far up and down when you're running. So wasting energy going up and down. I want you moving forward. And ground contact time is how long your foot's on the ground. And the ground is bad in my head. My job is to teach people how to get on and off the ground as quickly as possible to reduce impact. So ground contact time is a metric I watch to see if people, as they're working on their cadence and shortening their stride length, is their ground contact time coming down? So ways you can work on these things, like reducing your ground contact time, improving your cadence. You know, the ways you do that are with training. So one of the things you can do is cadence training. So I have a metronome I run with. I played the flute all growing up, so I'm very comfortable with the metronome. And what that sounds like is I just downloaded a free one. So I can set it to whatever cadence I want. So in this case, I'll put it at, like, let's say I'm at 175. So I just hit this. And so this is, now my husband hates when I run with this thing. But what's happening is every time I'm hearing that tick, tick, ticking noise, I'm thinking about pulling my foot up off the ground. Some people will think about landing, and that's fine too. But it's to help train that ability to move your feet regularly and consistently. The other option is if you like music. So I have YouTube Music. And so I just typed in 175 beats per minute. And so what will happen is it will give me music, sometimes artificially sped up, but sometimes like Eminem has a lot of 175 beats per minute. Rihanna does too, Drake. Good playlists that songs are beating, the cadence of the song is 175 for me, or 180, whatever I'm trying to train at. And it keeps directing me to pull my feet off the ground at that rhythm. So if you don't like the tick, tick, ticking noise, the music is a really good option. Oh, you can't hear it. So what you can do is open whatever music app you use and type in songs with 175 beats per minute, or pick your metronome and set that to 175 and just play with that training of it. Jumping rope is another way to work on your cadence, because when you're jumping rope, again, you're not going to want to like sit and load. You may have to do double hops. You may not be able to do double unders like they do in CrossFit, but you can jump pretty fast. It's a good way to work on training your feet to come on and off the ground. Hopscotch, if you have kids, draw hopscotch on the sidewalk with some chalk. First of all, they like doing that with you, but working on 2 feet to 1 feet as you're moving forward trains like we would with our running. So, or if you have an agility ladder, draw an agility ladder on the sidewalk or get one. They're not that expensive, but working on your footwork. I mean, we do that in middle school and high school. We work on these agility things where we're cutting, going around cones, and we stop doing that as we age. Now, my kids are now in high school, so very rarely am I like playing tag with them in the backyard like I did when they were little, or like just running around being silly with them. So I've lost that feeling of lightness that I used to have when I would do that. So I think that training this part of our system, which is a little bit of neuro input, a little bit of muscular input from our brain, that ability to like change directions really quick helps us feel lighter on our feet. And again, works on that rotational movement that we don't tend to do with sitting all day. So, but again, you have to train it. So don't expect it to be perfect the first time you do some jump roping or hopscotch. You might feel heavy and loading, like you're just like hitting the ground harder than you want. But the more you practice that, and the cool thing is that things like agility ladder and jump roping can be done as part of your mileage. So if your first mile is like some hopscotch, start your watch, do some hopscotch followed by a little short run down the sidewalk, go back, do hopscotch again, then do a little bit of a run down the sidewalk. That training can count as your mileage. And it will train you in a totally different way than would be if you're just plodding along down the sidewalk. It's a little more fun too. But doing things like that, playing in the grass, like take your shoes and socks off and do some agility work. Think back to the old school days of like karaoke and side shuffling and gym. And what it feels like to run barefoot, to work on that foot strength is really powerful too, because it will help you just be more in tune with how your body's moving. So that can count as mileage. So don't be afraid to make your warm-up mile be part of this agility training in the sidewalk. If you have access, or training in the grass, if you have access to sand, go do some stuff in the sand. Train your brain to sense different things with how you're moving. One of my favorite ways is dancing. So the song Cha-Cha Smooth, kind of that cha-cha movement where you're having to move your feet really quickly is a really great fun way to do cadence training. And not everyone's a great dancer, but I think that working on your dancing skill helps you with coordination. So if you're pushing yourself to improve your technique of coming on and off the ground quickly and being in control of your body moving through space, dancing is a great way to do that. And my last tips for everyone are recovery work. Now, this is something that I'm also very passionate about because I don't think that we give our body enough time to recover. We have rest days, but a lot of people don't want to rest. And so maybe they go for a short run. But again, you're just putting mileage on your body. That's just more impact. So are there things that you can do to keep your mind in that marathon preparation without adding extra mileage? So I love aqua jogging. If you don't have access to a pool, you can, sometimes gyms will let you join just to use their pool. It might be worth it or they might have a shortened gym membership that'll just get you through your marathon training. So aqua jogging is done where you put a belt around your waist in the water or noodles under your armpits, or you'll sit on a noodle and you're just moving your legs like you're running. You can work on your cadence. You can set the metronome to 180 while you're in the water and work on pulling your foot through. You can actually, if it's like only 4 or 5 feet, you could actually run back and forth in the water with your feet touching the ground. So that's great too. But the water, that buoyancy of the water is helping to take some of the load off of your joints and take some stress out of your bones, off your bones. I do love Pilates and yoga for runners because it gives stability, mobility, and flexibility. If you're a Peloton fan, they have workouts that are Pilates and yoga in one 30-minute session. You feel so weak while you're doing it, but so strong when you're done. So it's a really great way to challenge yourself to work on that stability that you'll need to keep your body upright for 26.2 miles, but also the flexibility to help you not be as sore afterwards. Getting on a bike is another great way to work on cadence. So you can see what your cadence is on a bike. You can see, is it at 180? And you're cycling through, pulling your foot through just like you would with running. Your body's not moving forward like it is with running, but in place, you can be working on that hamstring loading, that volume and repetition that your hamstring has to do to pull your foot through down from that 6 o'clock to 12 o'clock position. That is all hamstring. It's a great way to work on that without the impact. There's no impact to your joints when you're riding a bike. Now, foam roller and lacrosse ball work are a blessing and a curse. So foam rollers are really great for the fascial system. So fascia is the connective tissue that covers all of your muscles. Actually, not just your muscles, all your organs too, everywhere. It's all throughout us. It's a connective tissue. So foam rolling is a really good way to work on some of that fascial work and to get some flexibility in that fascia. Versus a lacrosse ball is very trigger point work. So lacrosse balls are, for those of you that don't know what a lacrosse ball is, it's a hard rubber ball that's about the size of a tennis ball, but it's rubbery and it bounces. So because it's hard, it doesn't give like a tennis ball would, and it's not as hard as a golf ball. Sometimes running stores like our Running Depot here in Crystal Lake have recovery balls that are made for this kind of trigger point work. So in the exercises I'm going to send you guys, you'll see some foam rolling options that work on working the fascia, but also how you can use the foam roller to lay on it to help you get some range of motion through your shoulders, your lats, your pelvis. And the lacrosse ball, I call that squashing, where you're going to take the lacrosse ball and work it into like your butt. You might be laying on this lacrosse ball and rolling back and forth. And remember, it's a hard rubber ball. So it's working its way into that muscle, more trigger point based. So it's a little bit tender, but it can get in there. And what recovery work really is meant to do is to keep your blood circulating, keep your muscles from building up that lactic acid, give them some time to relax, reward them for all the work they do, and give your joints a break too from all of that impact. So, there's other recovery strategies that people ask about all the time. Things like sauna and cold plunge, that's fine. There's no research that says that's contraindicated for runners. There is some dispute in the literature about how cold it should be, depending on if you're a male or a female, if you're still menstruating versus if you're postmenopausal. So there's some research debates going on right now, but if you feel good after a cold plunge, do it. If you feel good using a sauna after a workout or before a workout to warm up, do it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't cause any harm. And if you feel good, that's all that matters. Some people love those recovery boots. We bring them with us to races for all of our racers to use after like the Crystal Lake Half Marathon or the Crystal Lake Aquathon. And it just helps with circulation and getting blood flowing. Again, if you have them and it feels good to use them, use them. Like, there's no contraindication to you using them. A professional massage is always still my favorite, but it gets expensive. So if you can do a professional massage during your training, especially if you're training every 4 to 6 weeks, and then you're willing to use the lacrosse ball and the foam roller in between, that is a great way to keep up on recovery work. Now, a percussion massage or Theragun is one of the brand names. That's great too. Not everybody loves that type of like repetitive pecking. And it is different than the fascial work of a foam roller or trigger point work of a cross ball. But again, if it feels good and you like it and it helps you not be so sore the next day, do it. I would not recommend buying something like a Theragun that's $250. You don't need to spend that much money. If you are a professional runner, then maybe. But if you're a recreational runner who's running 4 to 5 days a week, one that you find at Costco is just fine. I wouldn't spend $20 on it, but I also would not spend $250 on it. So that middle price point, read the reviews on Amazon, see what people are saying about it. That's how you'll know if it's a good product or not. Other things to talk about, and again, if you guys have other, Michael likes Normatec. Yep, awesome product. And it's good, it's well built, so it's going to last, that you can use it almost after every run. So shoes, everybody always asks me about shoes. This is probably the number one question I get, is what shoes should I be wearing? And I have a love-hate relationship with shoes. I love that technology is very cool and people are trying to be innovative with ways to help make runners better, but it's a piece of equipment. And as I'm really trying to learn how to play golf, and no matter what golf club I use, until I fix my swing, I'm not going to be able to maximize on the potential of each club until I learn how to move my mechanics better. So shoes are the same way to me. Until you work on your form and you're strong enough and your joints are not tight, certain shoes may actually hurt you more. So a lot of people will run in these thick shoes where there's like, it's like you're running on a cloud because there's so much cushioning. But what that does is it takes away your awareness of what your foot is doing and how it's landing and where the control factor is. And it almost takes away sensation from your head to your foot. So I think some of those cushion shoes are great when you're doing a long run. But if you can do a shorter run and you wear shoes with less cushioning to get your brain to feel what your body's doing, that is very powerful to give your foot time to be strong, to give your brain input on what your foot is doing. That's why things like running on the grass and sand are so powerful, is because it's a different texture and makes your brain think about movement differently. So shoes are, to me, like a golf club. You should have a couple different options. I know it gets expensive, but having different options gives you different training options too. So I don't always think that shoes break down at a specific mileage, like 500 miles is all that shoe is capable of, because the way some of these new shoes are made with different types of foam, shoes are lasting longer if you're using them the right way. But if you look at the bottom of your shoe and you're seeing wear on one side or in the front or in the back, you have to start looking at, what am I doing during my running that only this part of the shoe is starting to wear away? So I always tell everybody, look at your shoes, turn them upside down. Do you see a wear pattern? Is the wear pattern different from the right, from the left to the left? So if there's that discrepancy between sides or between parts of the front or the back, there might be a technique flaw that can lead to an injury. Maybe you'll never be injured and then that's fine. But maybe you want to still look at it just to know how you're moving through space. You combine what the bottom of your shoe is with watching yourself on a video, you'll learn a lot about movement. Other equipment that I get asked a lot about is like taping. I'll see people run the Chicago Marathon and they pass me and they have tape everywhere. I don't really think taping does much to stop movement. I'm sorry, to help movement. I use it more to stop movement. So the one example I always give is I have some patients that tend to let their shoulders creep up when they're working at the computer. So I tape their shoulders down so that when they're relaxed typing, they don't feel anything. But if their shoulders start to creep up, they can feel that tension and it triggers their brain to be like, relax, relax your shoulders. So during running, our brain can't always pick up on all that stuff because we're watching cars and other people and that hot guy that's running across the street, same time I am every day. I get distracted, so I can't always tell what the tape is telling me, especially if it's all over my body. I may not be able to sense each part of that at the same time. So I don't think taping your entire body does anything, but it might be helpful during your training. So pick a body part and use it during training. The same with compression socks. Again, there is no harm to using compression socks. If it makes you feel better, it makes you confident, use it. If you're having chronic shin splints, the compression socks aren't going to make your shin splints go away. It might temper the symptoms a little bit, but that's again where I'd want you looking at, how are you strength-wise? How are you running technique-wise? Why are the front of your shins having to work so hard that they're screaming at you? So, using what your body's telling you with kind of what equipment you're looking at might help you, and using the video of yourself to figure out what you're doing. Is there any other equipment or questions you guys have on that stuff? So we do have 2 upcoming webinars that I'll send to you guys. We are doing a yoga for, I put in parentheses injured, because I think every runner is injured in some way. They just need some kind of recovery. So whether you're injured in the fact that you actually have like a lingering injury or you've been injured in the past, I think that just learning how to move better for that mobility and flexibility training. So that's why I put injured in parentheses, because you don't have to be injured to do it. But not every runner that's not injured is willing to look at this stuff. So I'm challenging you guys to look at what could you add in manageable pieces, not asking you to add hour-long workouts in, but what could you add to help with your performance and injury prevention throughout your training. And the other one we're going to be doing is a mental performance for the runner. It is, again, focused on the injury side of it, but I think a lot of the strategies that Jackie's going to talk about in that, and by the way, I'm not hosting these. I'm not a specialist in yoga or mental performance. I'm bringing in experts. But that mental performance side that we tend to get ourselves into problems when either we should be stopping and we don't, or we stop when we shouldn't, and how we bounce back from things, from defeat, or I would love to bring in Goggins. That would be awesome. I think that guy's awesome. So Michael just said, should we bring in Goggins? But that mental performance side is a necessary part of our training. And I think if we're not training our brain to go along with our body, that we're not maximizing our potential. So Betty asked, how can you slowly transition from A6 high cushion to lower cushioning, like an Ultra? Exactly what you said, slowly transitioning. So if your A6 is a 12 millimeter drop and you want to get down to an Ultra, which is a 0 millimeter drop. So a drop, for anyone that doesn't know that, is the difference between the back side of the shoe and the front side of the shoe. So if you have this big drop, this big difference between the two, you'll slowly, I would say, start at like a 12 millimeter. If you're at a 12 millimeter, go to like an 8 or 10, and then do a 6. And then to a 4, and then to a 2, and then to a 1. Now, that could get very expensive. So if you are, and she said she was a recovering heel striker. Again, the important thing isn't what part of your foot is touching the ground. It's where you were landing in relationship to the rest of you. So the idea of lowering that drop is to give your foot more control and to move away from some of that excessive cushioning. Now, if Betty wants to still wear her Asics during her high mileage runs, so maybe she wants to wear it during Chicago, but she doesn't want, I can't remember what Betty said she was doing. She's doing New York. So if Betty wants to wear her Asics during her New York, great. But do I want her in that shoe all the time? No, I want her training. I want her in the grass or in the sand, or maybe wearing an Ultra during some shorter training runs or trail runs. So she's working on that foot control and that foot strength, just to change her brain's way of understanding how it's moving. The other thing is, just being barefoot. I don't think we're barefoot enough in life. So if you can be barefoot at work, do it. If you can be barefoot when you're strengthening, that's even better. I mean, wearing socks if you're at a gym, because that can be gross. But using your foot strength in different functional ways is really a great way to get some different training in for you. One of the things I want to offer you guys is a free running technique screening. So when I send you an email, I'll put in there this offer for a free running technique screening. And so what that means is I would have you send me a video of you running from the side. It's going to be about a 2-second long clip, and I'll send you back a video with some of my thoughts on what is going on. And then if you decide you want to do some sessions with us, that's great. But I want to try to give you enough that you can get started. I think if you use some of the tips I talked about in here, the cadence work, looking at your metrics, doing some jump roping, hopscotching, cycling, things like that, you might be able to work on a lot of the stuff on your own. But if you're struggling and you want to get to the next thing, I will happily help you with that. But let's just look to see if you even need it, because you may not need it. And so that's why I'll do a screening. Again, it should take you about 10 seconds to film it, and then I'll send you a video back, helping you understand how you're moving through space. So I will send you guys information on that too. And I'm grateful that you guys came today. If you guys have questions, go ahead and post them, but I will be sending the link out along with and this will come in the next 2 days, just to set expectations. So the video link along with my suggested exercises for some of these. But again, my goal in this was that you guys understood why behind all this stuff, so that when you were looking at things online or hearing what other people say or reading Runner's World magazine, you understand what you can do with that information and how it can help you. Because somebody may give really bad advice, and if you're like, well, that just seems like that's counterproductive, I don't really want to do that. You don't have to. Just because someone says you need to do it doesn't mean you need to do it, because it might not be right for you. So helping you guys understand the best way to make decisions for your personal goals is what I really want you to feel empowered by learning about this stuff. So I appreciate you paying attention and asking questions and interacting with me. But again, in a couple days, I'll be sending out some PDFs, a link to this webinar. And, if you want to do that free screening with me, I'll set you up with how to do that. But if you don't have any questions, go ahead and log off. Otherwise, I'll stay on for a couple minutes. But thank you, and good luck with all your races. Super proud of you guys. Keep up the good work, and good luck. It was nice to meet you too, Betty. Thank you very much. Thanks for being loyal to us.